Everybody click on the record button and I'm gonna shut up and turn it over to Richard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gabrielle. Hopefully everyone can see my slides just fine.
Yes.
Perfect. I will provide a PDF of the slides at the end. I'll put it into the chat. So don't feel like you need to write extra things down unless you like to write things down, to help you remember things. So I did this training with Brenda, so I want to acknowledge the work that Brenda did in helping shape the slides as well. The Yeah, so let's just step through. Yeah, so overall, we want to understand why the training visit matters. Some ideas on how to conduct effective visits, both in person and virtual, as likely you'll have to do both. And sometimes you have that dual option for many clubs, and so perhaps you want to actually do visit online just to see how it looks online. It might look great in the room, but you might find that if a guest came online, they would have a really sort of strange experience, and so you can provide the club some feedback that way. What you have to do on filling out the reports, and then just explore some ideas of how to build these relationships with the club. And as we go through, please feel free to ask questions or put things in the chat as we go along. I can see most faces and I can see the chat.
And Richard, I have the chat open so I can help you with that.
Perfect. I appreciate that. So, first of all, why are they important? Well, the first one on the list is we often say, well, we want to show that the district supports and engagement, but that's really uh, in the interest of the other things that are on the list, because we want to have successful clubs in our district, and so the area directors play a really key role in helping us understand those strengths and also the challenges they're seeing. And we want to be able to build trust and communication, both between the various levels of the district, but in particular the area directors themselves with the teams there, and then ultimately have that positive impact on the club health and member satisfaction. So at the end of the day, everyone's volunteers. People, even in clubs, are volunteers. They're paying their dues, but people show up to the meetings, and we want people to get out of those meetings what they intended to. And I think we all believe that the district can have a positive impact on that, and so the area directors are our first line of communication, of helping to take the experience from beyond just the club experience and the small community they have in their club to get that wider level of support. So in terms of preparing for an area visit, many of you have already made visits, and particularly if you've been an area director in the past, you'll have had visits. And if you've been an officer, everyone's already in the club, and most people have already been officers, and so you'll have had club visits from area directors, and ultimately the report that you get that people put together. But I think a key thing is to prepare in advance. Schedule it with the officers. You can use the Find a Club method on Toastmasters International website. That will often give you a way of contacting the club. Normally on Find a Club, you also have a link to the club's website. Most clubs have a website. So you could then, that also tends to have a contact button, and, pretend you're just like a regular guest, and, press the button, say, I'd like to visit, obviously explain, who you are and why the time you'd like to come, and hopefully you'll get a visit and answer back. If you don't, then feel free to ping them in some different way. For example, everyone has access to the District Central club officer list. We'll cover that a little bit later. What's on District Central, but ultimately, if after you've done some due diligence and tried a few times, if they just don't get back to you, then I have no problem with you just showing up, just like a guest would, because people can find meetings in Find a Club, and it tells you where the address is and or where the online link is. And guests do come unannounced, and so warn them. Warn them is polite, just so that you're not surprising them. They don't feel blindsided by you turning up. Uh, but don't allow the lack of response to mean that it takes you a month or two to get to them. We've got lots of information on the club itself, the club history on the dashboard and in District Central. So you can see, if it's a month into the year, then perhaps they haven't had that much activity on getting through levels. But you could look at last year's dashboard. Is this a club where they've got all their DCP goals done? Or is it a club where, only a couple of officers got trained and only a couple of people did levels? So again, don't read too much into that. Perhaps their meetings are really effective and the members are happy. But if there are, if they're a club with 8 members or a club with 20 members, probably the dynamic's going to be a little bit different. And it's great to sort of have that information ahead of time. Again, don't make preconceptions based on that. But that does allow you to ask some questions. If they're a club that's always had 20 or more people, you could, ask positive questions about, well, where do you find these new people? Because everyone also has to have turnover. Or if it's a smaller club, what are they working on to gain more people and make that team a little bit larger? And then make sure you have something to share. So you're going there, you'll normally get a few minutes to talk to them, share some events that are coming up or other resources, and just give them I guess that should be TLI, but Toastmasters International. So just things that are on the District 7 site or Toastmasters International, things that you think that can be helpful.
Richard, I'm going to stop it for 1 second.
Yeah.
I forgot to explain that because we're recording this, this is not for anybody who's on the call. This is for people who watch the recording. I'm going to be giving a few code words, and that's to ensure that people who watch the recording have listened to it. So the first code word is events, EVENTS. That's the first code word, events. Thank you. Move on. I'll just do this about every 15 minutes. Thank you, Richard.
Perfect. A great idea of checking things out. So this is preparing for the visit. Do a little bit of due diligence. And then, some of the key areas for finding that information is on the District 7 website. So, for example, you'll be used to having the Club Central button. Once you got accepted as an area director, you have now a District 7 with a whole series of different reports on their website. There's also a link which will work in the PDF that I send. So some of the key things are also looking at the dashboard, which I won't go into in detail today. But the key things that you have access to are the area related to the club visit reports. So I just want to step ahead. Okay, sorry. I was feeling my slides were out of order, but I think it's okay. Yeah, so one of the things is that on this screenshot from my own version, the training report is only for the division director, but if you do want to know who's been trained, then just contact your division director and they'll be able to tell you who has been trained, if the secretary in a particular club has been trained, rather than just knowing that 3, 4, or 5 people have been trained in the overall club. We're going to talk about the visit reports on the next slide. But one of the key areas where you can find out who's in the club are the downloading these reports. I can do it from the whole division, but as an area director, you'll be able to do both the club officer reports and area membership report. So area club officer and area membership report. This gives you a list of all the people and email addresses. And so if you're going to email just a single club, then you could just use the members there. If you're going to email many, many people, then it's often polite to use the, a BCC type of approach so that you're not blasting email addresses across a whole group of people who don't really know each other. But I use these reports quite often to be able to send messages out to my whole division, which seems easier than having the area directors send 5 individual messages, or they can take my message and then use their email contacts as a follow-up. And these get created as sort of Excel sheets, CSV subfiles. The other thing from the dashboard is the area directors reports. These are due by the end of November, so we have a little bit of time. So you don't necessarily, and often, for the most part, when I was area director, I didn't do a report on my first visit. I visited the club, got a feel for it, and then, visited again, a few weeks or a month or so later, and then that's when I did my report. So I got an idea of what was going on in the club, if what I saw on a particular visit was just a one-off, or if it was, how things normally are. But the key thing here is it gives you a dashboard allowing you to select a club and then create a starting report for that club. And then there's an area down below that includes the active club reports, but also it gives you a way of looking at past reports. This is again an area where you could look at what's gone on. You could also talk to the previous area director. If you have particular concerns about a club, you might, and you could talk to someone who's already visited the club just to get an idea of what's going on there if you have any concerns ahead of that first visit. And this also gives the timelines for those 2 visits. We're expected to do 2 visits, and the goal is to get to 75% for the whole district, and then within each area and each division the same percentage. But of course, if everyone gets closer to 100%, it makes it much easier to get those statistics as we roll them all up. So that was a brief digression into the Club Central part to get that information. And so then I'm going to jump back into the visits part. So when it's an in-person visit, then, and I guess this is also, most of these can apply for, if you're online too, but, aim to arrive early. If it's a corporate club, you might find you have to sign in and get a badge, and that can take an extra 5 or 10 minutes, particularly the first time you visit. And the last thing you're going to be doing is, arriving late and, rushing into the meeting. Do all the nice things of greeting people, make sure you're checking, really understand the meeting, but very much be in an observation mode. If possible, meet with the officers. So ahead of time, if they can, allow a little bit of extra time afterwards, that would be great too. To follow up, you can ask them about the things like the club success plan or how they're doing on the DCP plan later on. And then, use the opportunity to ask, open-ended questions about membership, people doing pathways projects, how the leadership side of things are going. Some of it, you might have some ideas of what you might ask based on your prior review of the club, whether it's a large club or a small club, active in pathways or less active, things like that. But just, again, use it as a way of gathering information. And then, ultimately you're there to provide encouragement and then leave them with some resources. Often you might think that the District 7 website is easy to find and the calendar is easy to find, and that if you want to know something, you just go and look there. Many, many people don't even know it exists, and so don't make any assumptions about what people know about. Sometimes people just know what they know and they're not curious about digging into things. And again, if people don't know something's there, they're not going to even know to look. And particularly if you can find 1 or 2 advocates there of someone who will, keep checking on these things, that can be great. And then for a virtual meeting, again, getting there early is great. You might find the technology on your laptop is not quite set up. Perhaps they're using Teams and something needs to be installed, or they're using a different type of uh, online software that you're not used to. So do give some extra time. Today I found that my camera wasn't working, so I even had to change laptops. So that's just a reminder that, sometimes things don't always go smoothly, even when you think you've planned ahead. And again, just observe how the meeting goes. One of the things that Brenda brought up that she had found successful is if the club likes to create screenshots, then sort of encourage them to do that where everyone comes on camera and you take a screenshot and use that as a way of memorizing the meeting or creating some highlights. And then, you might be on a lot of meetings. So if you're on the meeting, then do remain engaged. If you truly don't have time to be in the meeting, then don't be there. Sorry. So again, if you're going to be in a meeting, then remain engaged. Do it in a professional way. So, is there any questions on the types of things to do in the meeting itself? Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, and then as a follow-up, do the things that you would like someone else to do. Send a thank you email with the resources. So if you talk about things in the meeting, it's always great to pass those on as an email. Then they have those real links, the links to the District 7 website, perhaps with the calendar, if that's some of the things you talked about, or the Toast Talk, or some other documents. Even if you think that people should be receiving these via email, we'll get them into your email. One visit I had with one of the clubs at Intel, I actually got this great email from the president, and she listed out all the things that she thought I'd said that were positive. They had a lot of visitors that day. They had a lot of new people, and so they asked me to say, well, why should people join Toastmasters or something along those lines? So I brought up a few different reasons why in a corporate club it's great to be in Toastmasters, and I got this email that listed out all the things that I'd said, and so she actually even got there before I did. But it was really, it was great that they, took that on board, and I was able to then, respond back, add some additional things, and so, enter that dialogue with the officers, particularly if they, want to utilize your information. They will often see you as the experts, and one thing to bear in mind, at least for me, I mean, I might be a division director giving the training, but 2 years ago, I was an area director. I was exactly in your position. I'd just been doing this thing for a few weeks. The people in the club will see you as this big expert, but don't have imposter syndrome, thinking, well, you don't know anything. You're only just you know about being an officer, but you don't know much more. So, I mean, going with some confidence, but at the same time, that little bit more than they do, and so they'll appreciate that information you give. So I think that idea of you know, embracing the opportunity of learning, just as PJ said, it's on the job training. Embrace that. Don't be surprised if they feel intimidated by you being there. You're intimidated by being there because they know each other, you don't know them. So it's all a little bit of a, it could be a downward spiral if you want, but it can then be a very positive experience because they're looking to you for information. You're prepared and you give them something that improves their experience of the week and everything else. So encourage them to contact you and track progress. If they talked about they were going to do something, if they said, "Oh, we're going to have this event," well, perhaps you help get it on the calendar, or you follow with them, say, you had that open house. Did you get many people? Was there any follow-up needed?" Perhaps they have some question that forgotten that had come up at the open house, and you can help them with. And then when you go back, you can then say, if you know that, say, they don't, one person had got a level 1, but when you go back, there are, a couple of level 1s and level 2. Well, make a note of that. Notice that you have noticed that what they've done in the meantime. And again, that can be positive. And if you saw that perhaps they're not using Pathways, perhaps for next time you could offer to do a Pathways presentation. We have lots of materials. You don't have to create things from scratch, but using a Pathways speech of your own. So again, don't speak for free. If you're obviously also trying to make your own Pathways progress, perhaps you have a I mean, sometimes even a level one presentation can be on presenting on a topic. You know, any level speech you can use and present at a club and get credit. You know, they can do an evaluation for you, and you can get credit, but you can also inspire them to, you know, your positive experiences of why you're using Pathways can be passed on. So let's get into the area director reports. As I mentioned at the beginning, don't feel like you have to do this after the first visit. One past president, you know, when I was working with him, said, "Oh, actually, if you do it the first time, you can see the differences." But I still like the idea of visiting the club the first time and then filling it in. You know, actually doing the report the next time. Uh, what I'm showing here is a snapshot from the PDF version. Uh, the online version is more integrated and you step through a series of fields with edit fields. Also, the online version doesn't use the number 1 through 5 scale. And so I believe the scale at the top, you know, 5 is far exceeds expectations through, you know, 3 in the middle and then 1 strongly recommended improvement. That's the scale that you have in there. And overall, there are some key themes in the meeting. There's the meeting quality, which is very similar to the the moments of truth type of effect of you know what different aspects of the meeting got covered. You know, what's going on with membership, what's going on with leadership, are there any particular challenges, and then you know, recognizing successes. And just like a regular speech evaluation, you know, be honest, specific, and constructive. Um, the idea is that you know, most of it should be, you know, positive and encouraging, but, you know, feel free also to, you know, provide areas of improvement. Don't, you know, the idea is to help build them up. One of the things that I have noticed in the past is you have to be a little bit aware of grade inflation. Not everything is a 5, leaves room for growth. So I had some clubs last year that if you looked at the distribution of total scores, you know, one area director was particularly like to give 5s for almost everything, where I was, you know, even if a club was technically stronger in an area, you know, I might only be giving them a 3 or a 4 because I said, well, you got 6 officers trained, well, you know, or 5 officers trained, well, you know, let's get to 6 or 7 to get that higher score. Whereas they were using a 5, you know, far meets expectations, even if people just got to the minimum level of 4 officers trained. So
Richard,
do think about that. You know, you
Richard, there's a
probably
question.
don't. Yeah, Sarah, carry on.
There's a question that I think you should answer right now.
Okay.
She was asking whether or not you're saying to visit twice before November to get the report done, or that do the report later. I think the answer to that's real clear, but I wanted you to answer that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely suggesting to visit more than required. You know, the required 2 times would be to visit, you know, once before November and once, you know, by May. And I think if you're really going to have a rapport with the club, you want to visit multiple times. But I don't think, yeah, so visiting at least a couple of times in each of the 6 months periods, I would see that as the minimum. Ideally, you get a chance to, on some of the clubs, particularly the ones that need help, you know, go in more often than that. But I think yeah, so ideally you would visit the club roundabout now, and then perhaps you visit, you know, in a few weeks' time, you know, in the later September, October timeframe, and get the report filled out. Don't wait until, you know, November, Thanksgiving, and various other things come around. So, you know, getting it done in October would be great. Does that answer the question, or?
I think so. I got a thumbs up from her. I'm going to stick another
Okay.
code word in while I'm talking. The
Yeah.
second code word is resources. RESOURCES, resources. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, and I also like PJ's comments about, you know, expecting that they will ask questions you can't answer. And then just have, a good answer about, I don't have that on top of my head, just like he says, but I'll find out and get back to you. And of course, the great thing about getting back to them is that's another area for communication. And it gives you, and of course, just like everything you'd want, if you have asked someone a question, you want a prompt answer. So do get back to them promptly, but the idea is that if they had the question, you didn't know the answer, then now you know the answer, but the next person who asks it, you do know it. But again, uh, don't have there's two sides of it. Don't feel intimidated that you have to know everything. And on the flip side, you do know more areas to look, and so that when they do have a question, you can positively help them by providing that answer. Yeah, so I think we talked about the idea of grade inflation. Now, don't be afraid to have, some twos and perhaps a one. It could be that if you're really going to have a one, we're strongly recommending some improvements, just like, so asking them to consider doing certain things. That might be something that you talk to them in the meeting, or you contacted them ahead of time. So, give work out what the best way to engage with the club is on things that need improvement. For the most part, I haven't had any issues with clubs, disagreeing or feeling that I was misgraded them, at least as far as I'm aware. But don't feel like everything, just like when someone does a speech and you give some feedback, then there always should be areas of improvement. So there should be some twos and perhaps even the odd one. You might not have any ones for the whole season of doing out these different reports for your clubs, but just be prepared. I mean, it's there as a tool to use, and it could be an area where they do need extra support. Yeah, so give positive feedback, include your feedback. As I mentioned on the previous slide, there's a comment field. Technically, it says things like, if below 3, please explain. And so normally if you choose a 1 or a 2 on the online form, it forces you to write some text. If you put 3 or above, then I think sometimes it's more optional. But I think it's still, even if you've rated someone highly, it's great to say what you did or why you felt it was that way. For example, how well did the club apply the qualities of, fellowship and so on. If you rated a 4, then it's great to say, I really like the way that you all worked together and you had a visitor and you made them feel welcome. And notice that you did table topics in a completely different way this time, so that it felt fresh and engaging, and something like that. Because again, it just the practice of you writing positive feedback, I think that's also a good skill to develop. Why did you think this of the rating? So filling out something there, you don't have to write an essay, but a sentence or two for each one, I think is helpful. And then for other people who read it, also get a sense of what the club's like. And I think it can help everyone. And the club then sees what you see from their visit, because of course the club will get this report.
Richard, can you talk for just a minute about who actually reads that report? I think some people get the impression that Toastmasters actually has the time to read each one of these reports, and that's just not true. And so people are afraid to give. I know that one time we got a report from our area governor or it was called governor at that time, that was rather negative, and our president was kind of upset about it. But the reality is, the only people who read these reports are the club itself, the area directors, and maybe the division directors. Isn't that correct? And so the feedback is worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's my understanding is the trio get to see it. And I've had some positive feedback. For example, I included a comment that a club was having some sort of open house, and Jim at the time, the district director, he then asked me a question about that and said, did the event happen and things. And so I also got the feedback that looking at the reports, but he doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't tend to go kind of higher than that. So I think people should see it as positive feedback, just like everything's a learning experience, and if you don't get some feedback, you don't know how you're doing. So then the DCP goals, that's certainly an area that you can use, as again, particularly if you see progress over time. Or areas, for example, if you've got a club that tends to get to presidential distinguished, you can encourage them to get there faster. Last year, there were some incentives for clubs to get to certain levels by a date earlier than June the 30th. You could also challenge them to say, well, let's try and get 7 officers trained rather than just the 4 or 5 you had, because that has this other incentive. And again, it's not necessarily the dollars from the Toastmasters store that are important. It's more the recognition. You get recognized as a high performing club within the district. So, but then if a club is only getting 2 or 3 officers trained, then your goal for them would be, well, let's get to 4 people trained, so you get people working with their peers, in other officer roles. So, use your praise and encouragement judiciously based on where the club is. And then, if there are particular challenges, if there's support steps, if it's about helping them organize an open house, or just where other resources are, how other clubs, or connecting them with a different, president whose club has been successful in a certain area, then, perhaps the clubs can work together in some way. And then ultimately, just like an evaluation, a sandwich evaluation, you want to, leave things on a positive note. Yeah, so Colleen was asking about the Distinguished Club Program. So there are some presentations, I think, on the Toastmasters site about that. But I think the key thing just to say on the dashboard about things like, the Distinguished Club Report or the program, there's pathways goals and training goals and, admin goals about getting 8 people paid up by the end of September so that the club remains in good standing. So at the end of the day, they're about, oh, actually, yeah. Oh, yeah, PJ is doing that in the next session. So stay online. I won't say anything else. But yeah, fundamentally, I think the idea is that you're encouraging people to use it as a tool, that it's not a way of, it's not the be all and end all of the meetings, but if you have a successful club, you're adding members, people are doing, learning things through pathways, they're using the educational program because we are an educational organization. And so a successful club that's doing the things the members want will tend to get those goals. And so I think that's the bottom line. And then PJ will expand on that. So in summary, in terms of building the relationships with the club, you want to be a mentor and a resource, not just an evaluator. Do keep the communication open, via email, whether it's to the whole club or to certain officers, but pass information around or keep those reminders coming. The district works hard to enable clubs to be successful. People put on webinars. We're planning some in-person events this year, and just make sure that people are aware of those and they can use them. We want to do events and things that people will find valuable. So connecting people so at least they're aware of them is great. And then it's that idea of following on with the helpful information and encouragement, and overall, I think the idea is that the more by visiting several times, you'll get a feel for what the club is. Particularly if you can see that certain pathways goals have been achieved, or you see some behavioral change in certain people. For example, you might see people who are, only just joined the club, and then 6 months later you've seen them after 6 months of Toastmasters. And so, whether it's in the meeting or offline, providing encouragement even to individuals, I think can be really valuable. So I think those were the different aspects of the club visit that I was planning to cover. Are there any particular questions, or would like me to circle back as say, PJ is doing the Distinguished Club program coming up. I'm certainly happy to talk more about the reports, or if you have any concerns about the visits themselves. Oh, I can see. So, okay.
Okay, I'll make it. Oh,
Susan. So Susan
go
put
ahead.
her hand up.
Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah.
Just a comment and kind of a little bit of shift for me from we're not the enforcers. We're not saying you must do club success plan. We are really focusing on, are the members happy? Does that sound right? Did I get that right?
I mean, ultimately, that's, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely not being
I
an
understand
enforcer,
club
being an
success plan
encourager.
can help with that, but it's
Yeah.
not the answer to that, right?
Yeah. So, and I think the way I've described the club success plan has been the idea that it's just a way of writing down what the club was already planning to do, and gives you, just like in many clubs are corporate clubs, and just say, well, just like you have an annual plan of the things you plan to do, and you want to review it, and that should be familiar to people. So again, but I think that I think saying you're not the enforcer, I think that's a really good way of thinking about it, that we want to be encouraging. Toastmasters International has certain goals, and there's a certain framework, and you understand why. You say, well, let's get a certain number of people trained, a certain level, a number of pathway levels done to show progress. But ultimately, those are tools that it's an educational program, and you want people to be getting out what they need from it. But by doing things like the moments of truth, that's a way of understanding, well, is the club meeting the needs of the members? And if the moments of truth finds areas that could be improved, then those are things that can go in the club success plan. So everything sort of has a positive, things can be sort of put in a positive framework of, let's make the club more applicable to the members.
Thank you.
Your question was a perfect lead-in to the comment I was going to make. Yes, we are absolutely not enforcers. We are a resource. And one of the requirements for being an area director is that you've served as a club president or vice president education. So you've walked in their shoes, you know some of the challenges they face, and now you're the resource for when new members become club officers. They've never done it before. They have all these questions. You've been there, and as I said in the chat, if they ask a question, and they will ask a question you can't answer, guaranteed. So go in there with that expectation. Don't go in there being afraid they're going to. Okay, yes, don't know the answer to that, but I will find out. And then guess what? Next club asks you that question, and now you know the answer. So you're the resource. And
I actually had good training in that at IBM technical support. I don't have all the answers, but I know or can find the guy that does.
Right. And who is the guy who does for you guys?
Start with
Richard.
division director.
Start with your division director. If we don't know the answer, we kick it up to the trio. If they don't know the answer, it gets kicked up to TI. That's what the hierarchy is all about. We're a support structure. And then another comment I wanted to make was along these same lines. You're a resource, not the enemy. And when I was on the trio, I had an area director who said he did not warn clubs that he was coming to visit. He wanted to surprise them and find out how they really did things and tell them everything they were doing wrong. And this same guy became a division director, not appointed by me, mind you, but he became a division director. And no surprise, I think it was 3 out of his 4 area directors resigned during his year. Imagine that. You know, what is that? What is that? You reap what you sow, kind of thing. You know, or there's some relevant expression. Okay, I'll stop talking for now anyway.
So I don't.
Yeah, and the I think just back onto the sorry, did you have something else, Gabrielle, to say? Or?
Oh, I was just going to tag on to PJ. I don't disagree with showing up at a club without telling them you're coming, just to see what they're really like, but not with the intent of attacking them. I would show up and just find out what they're really like. Then I would come back officially and give them suggestions. And that's where he went wrong, I think, because I agree with finding out how the club really works without you telling them you're coming, but not with the intent of attacking them. So yeah, so just a shift in mindset. So thank you for discussing that.
Yeah, and sorry, I lost my train of thought of the extra thing I was going to add on. So we were talking about the
I'm sorry, Richard.
visits. Yeah. So we were just talking about this. Yeah, it was something related to the visits, and yeah, in the same way that you're you're a resource. They're by being there, you are. Oh, okay, I don't remember what it was now. So in terms of this idea of being a little bit intimidated about going there, both last year and this year, I've had people who definitely were a little bit cautious about doing the visits, and then once they've started the visits, like, wow, I'm really enjoying. Last year in particular, I had one area director that was a little bit uncertain about visiting, and but then saying, wow, it's fantastic, I really enjoy all the visits. And so at the end of the day, Toastmasters is about club meetings, and the great thing about being an area director is that if you do it right, most of your area directoring is attending club meetings and perhaps some follow-up, but you can, the time you spend in this volunteer role can be at club meetings, which hopefully is something you enjoy because you're in Toastmasters. So by going to these different clubs, you get to see different ways of doing it. You can bring those ideas back to your own club, and you can take those ideas to other clubs and say, oh, by the way, your fellow club around the corner is doing something this way, or this is how they do table topics, or they did this cool thing I'd never seen before. And you can be part of passing those things along. But it's, the great thing about being the area director is you get to go to meetings you wouldn't normally go to.
So I'm going to chime in with a little bit about some other options. So as you visit your clubs, one of the things that Richard talked about a moment ago is moments of truth. We are going to do a moments of truth training for all the area directors in the near future. We haven't scheduled it yet. We realized the most important thing right now is get you out and about, seeing your clubs and doing the club success plan. But the moments of truth is a great tool, especially for a struggling club. Then they get to look at what's going well, what's not going well for their club. And so we will be doing a training on that. The other training that we would like to do, and I've already got 1 or 2 people possibly scheduled. I haven't got them scheduled, but I've got them on my radar, is conflict resolution. So occasionally a club will get into a conflicting situation. And I actually just got a text this morning from my PQD in another district who's having a tough time. He's got several clubs that are in conflict. And I suggested he get a conflict resolution training happening for his area directors ASAP. I'm not hearing that we have that with any of our clubs, but I do know we have a number of clubs struggling. So between the moments of truth training that we'll do soon, hopefully Phyllis and I are working on that. And then also this conflict resolution, just in case you have a club that's got bigger problems than just moments of truth can solve. We will I will be scheduling a conflict resolution training for area directors before the end of the year. Do we have any other questions? Or is everybody kind of caught up for the moment?
I've had my hand
Yeah,
up
yeah.
quite a while.
Oh, sorry, you know what?
It blends in with the pumpkins.
It blends in with the pumpkin. That's why we didn't see it. Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, yes.
I don't
okay.
have a question, but I've got a methodology that I think is important. When I'm trying to visit the clubs once a month, but I have it lucky because I belong to two of them, so I have to visit every week. But I found out that they don't know really who you are. And my goal, and I told them, I want you to know me as a friend and a resource. I'm going to be around. And it's working because they want me there. I haven't always had that experience as area director in the past. Some clubs see you as this nosy person that's going to criticize and tear me down, or what are you here for? And you're a foreigner and an outsider, and it's not pleasant. But these people are really nice, and I think I'm trying to. I've got one club that's struggling, but I think I know why. I've been there before in my Toastmaster life. And I'm not sure, I might consult with PJ on that one, but I'm gonna hang in there and go be their helper and whatever they want. It's just interesting to see the different cultures and respect that. It's fascinating. And I have one club that just, I come out of there, I'm not a morning person. I'm hardly awake at 7 a.m. But I come out of there jazzed up and pumped all day long. How does that happen? Because it's a fun club. But as everything else, they could use some suggestions, so I will provide that. But I want them by the end of the year to know who the area director is. It's not just this person that shows up with a bunch of papers to sign. And if I can help in that, that's what I want to do for the district.
And I'll add, building that kind of relationship and modeling a positive, supportive area director can help in recruiting area directors for next year.
I hope so, but we need to make our presence known. And that's, I feel that hasn't been happening for several years.
Yeah, the new one they do.
It,
That was one of the good things about that. Well,
good job.
All right. Great. If nobody's got anything else for the moment, I'm going to suggest we all go grab a cup of coffee and be back by 10 o'clock to listen to PJ. And you can all just turn your screens off. I'm going to mute everybody so the recording doesn't get ugly. I have one more code word at the moment for the people who will be doing the recording. The code word is dashboard, DASHBOARD, dashboard. And you're all welcome to go grab a cup of coffee, and I'll see you back here at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And
And
Okay.
you're
you
welcome
can
to
pause
stay
the
and talk to each
recording.
other if you want, but it's on recording, so
Yeah, you can pause the recording.
I can pause it and it won't be ugly. Okay.
Correct. You just have to remember to turn it back on when we come back. That's the part I always forget.
Thanks. I'm on pause. I found the button. All right, we are doing the club success plan and the distinguished club program. So the CSP and the DCP is what their short terms are. And the first code word is going to be success. SUCCESS. Success is the first code word for those on the recording. Take it away, PJ.
Okay, thank you, Gabrielle. That's very clever, having code words to verify people have watched the recording. I never thought of that, so that's a clever idea. I am going to be talking about the Distinguished Club Program and the Club Success Program. I'll show some slides, screenshots, just because sometimes the Club Success Plan especially is really slow responding live. So it's faster if I just update the slides. And I will get my screen up here and we'll get started. Share, there, and there. Come on. Click. There we go. Okay, so the Distinguished Club Program, DCP, and Club Success Plan, CSP, all these three-letter acronyms, it's great. When I worked at Tektronix, big bureaucratic organization, we actually had a list of TLAs, three-letter acronyms. So it was sort of an inside joke, but we actually did have a list. It was crazy. So we're going to talk about the DCP and the CSP. One thing I want to call to your attention, notice the revision date. The DCP changed this year. There are some new things in it, new requirements. So be sure that you're looking at the most recent version, which was revised in June of 2025. When I first started looking at this, I actually had an older version, but there we go. That's the current version. So, or at least the most current I've seen. And then the Club Success Plan, this is just a screenshot from my Club Success Plan online. They don't have a training brochure per se. But what are these things? What's the difference between the DCP and the Club Success Plan, and how do they interrelate? Well, it's quite simple. The Distinguished Club Program, that's the list of goals we get from Toastmasters International. Now, they've been doing this for over 100 years, and they've recognized patterns, what makes clubs successful, clubs that year after year do well, they don't fold up, they don't lose members, all that sort of thing. And they've identified these 10 goals. If you meet these goals, your club's probably going to be successful. And then the Club Success Plan, that's how do we accomplish these goals? That's the part where we have to brainstorm and think about, okay, those are the 10 goals. How are we going to meet them? So that's the difference between the two and how they relate together. You do need both of them. You can't have a list of goals with no way to get there. And likewise, why write a plan if you don't know where you're going? What's new? There have been changes to the Distinguished Club Program qualifying requirements. Those are denoted by the 2 asterisks. First of all, the club must be in good standing, which means what? Have to have at least 8 members, right? That's a club in good standing. Ideally, you have 20 members, or if you didn't have 20 members at the beginning of the year, you have a net gain of 3 members. This is to qualify to be a distinguished club. That's what I'm talking about. This is a new requirement. You must submit a club success plan by September 30th, which is coming up. So if you don't do that, you don't get to play. You can have 25 members, 30 members. You can meet all 10 of the DCP goals. If you did not submit your club success plan by September 30th, doesn't count. You can't be a distinguished club. There's also a new recognition level. Instead of just the 3 that we had previously, Distinguished, Select Distinguished, and President's Distinguished, we now have one called Smedley Distinguished. We'll talk a little more about that. The Club Success Plan is online. I highly recommend doing the online version. There is a paper version for clubs without internet access, but it's more clunky sharing that paper version around and having the different club officers input their particular portion of it, and then going back and referring to it, following up, making sure you're on track. It's more challenging if you're doing it on a paper version or a PDF version. So I highly recommend doing the online version, but we have some prison clubs. They can't have access to internet. So print the PDF or download the PDF and share it around other ways. Okay. The DCP, we're going to talk about that first. And all of you should be quite familiar with this. But remember, there are some changes this year, so do pay attention to that. But if you're not familiar with this, here's how I think of it. When I first heard of the DCP, I kept trying to remember the 10 goals, and I struggled. I couldn't remember them until somebody pointed this out to me. Well, the first 6 are all about education. Next 2 are about membership. Third one's about, or the next 2 are about training your club officers and reporting your club officer list. So Toastmasters International, and I'll refer to them as TI mostly. So TI knows who to contact for your club. And did you pay your dues on time? So those are the 4 different types of goals: education, membership, training, and admin. The first 6 about education: 4 level 1s, 2 level 2s, 2 more level 2s, 2 level 3s, anybody completing a level 4 or a complete path or a DTM award, and then somebody else doing the same thing. Now, you get the question from people who foresee this. Why didn't they just say 4 level 2s instead of 2 level 2s and 2 more level 2s? Anybody want to take a shot at that? Practice answering that question, because you will hear it. Why is goal number 2 2 level 2s, and why is goal number 3 2 more level 2s? Why don't we just have one goal, 4 level 2s, if that's what they want? Don't be bashful. Okay, you're all bashful this morning for some reason, or you can't find your unmute button. The reason is some clubs are struggling. It's a challenge for them to get 2 level 2 awards. So we make it easy. They can achieve that little bite-sized step, and then bite-sized step. I'm mixing metaphors, aren't I? Anyway, they can achieve that that first level, and they can get that goal. The minimum recognition in Distinguished Club Program is to meet 5 of the 10 goals. So if they can get 2 of those, they've now checked off one of those 10 goals. So that's why those are split up the way they are. Okay. And this, by the way, is just a dashboard picture I clicked from my own home club. And I'm going to change my pointer here, pointer options. I'm going to use the laser pen because that's kind of fun. Okay. The next 2 goals, 7 and 8, are all about membership. 4 new members and 4 more new members. Again, why didn't they just say 8 members? Because some clubs have a real difficult time getting those 4 members. So they can check off a goal by getting 4, then get 4 more, and it's another level. It's all good. So here's something important to remember. These members that count here are new members, dual members, charter members, or reinstated members. Transfer members don't count. And the last time I did this session, somebody said, yeah, that bit us. We got a transfer member and we thought we had our minimum 20 members. And at the end of the year, we found out we weren't a distinguished club because our transfer member didn't count. We only had 19 members. So can anybody tell me why transfer members don't count? Anybody got it?
No net new members.
Yes, no net new members. And what is the benefit of a new member? Money. A friend of mine has a degree in economics, and he said, whenever something isn't clear to you, follow the money. And that is absolutely what's going on here. Transfer members don't pay more dues until their dues run out at the end of that term. So new members pay dues, and that's what it's all about. TI wants those new members. Sorry to say, it's all about the money. Goal number 9, about training.
PJ, there's a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So did dual members count twice?
Yes, because they paid dues twice.
Yeah.
They count as a member in the club that they were currently in, that they've already paid dues in. And then if they paid dues to join a second club, they paid dues twice. So they count twice, or once for each of those clubs.
However, if they transfer from an existing club to a new chartered club, it's still no net new members. Am I right?
I believe that is true.
I'm thinking the prison Beyond the Walls club that's in the
Mhm.
work. If people transfer out of Rose City Prison Club into Beyond the Walls to charter the new club, it's still a no new net member.
Correct. Yes, I've actually had that conversation with Phyllis about 5 times, so I happen to know the answer to that
Okay,
complicated question.
Thank you, Gabrielle. And if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at this. I haven't started a new club or been involved in that for quite some time. It used to be when you started a new club, you could have a maximum of 3 transfer members, if I remember right. And I don't know if that's changed.
Okay,
can't
so
just transfer
that's our
them.
first practice, is one of us is going to look up the answer to that.
Okay. And I believe that that may have changed because it's been quite a few years since I was actually hands-on involved in that. But this, okay, now we're talking, thank you for the question. Now we're talking about training of club officers. They want a minimum of 4 trained, and you got to do that twice a year. So doesn't count unless you tick both of those boxes, you have to get at least 4 trained twice a year. Now, my club has, since I pulled this screenshot, we had 3 the initial go round, and then we got the other 4 trained, so we have a total of 7 now, like we do every year. All right. Okay, the admin goal, number 10. You have to pay your dues on time, and that means by October 1st. I just pulled this screenshot yesterday. We said, yes, we paid our dues on time. And that means I've already paid. I'm the club treasurer for Babylon. I've already paid our club dues for this go round. So that's already checked. We submitted our club officer list on time. So that's checked. So we got a check mark. We've accomplished goal number 10. Only 1 dues renewals required. Got to pay dues twice a year, but you only have to do 1 to get this goal. The club officer list, do you have to report that once or twice?
It depends.
You're very good. That's a trick question. Now, what does it depend on, Susan?
It depends on whether you elect officers twice a year or once a year, and that's a setting in the club setting stuff.
Yes, exactly. If you have we call it a semi-annual club where you elect officers twice a year, you need to submit that list before June 30th, and you need to submit that list before December 31st. Now, if you're not a club officer until January 1st, you're not the person who's going to be submitting this list by December 31st. So this is something that's important to keep in mind. You're helping the next administration get a point or a half a point towards goal number 10. So last year, when my club held our club officer elections, the first meeting in May, which is the club leadership handbook says that you're supposed to elect your new officers the first meeting in May, and then by June 30th, you are supposed to report that list to TI, and we did that. And I'll show you more about that when we get into the club success plan. We actually have an action item in there to do that. All right, so that's goal number 10.
PJ, one more question back on number 9, actually. So if we elect officers annually, do we still need to attend officer training twice for the same role to get credit?
Yes, you do. And a lot of people complain about that. And one approach that I like to see taken on that is during the June through August training, hopefully it's before August because that's already 2 months into their term. You want to get them trained a little sooner than that. But that training is often fairly basic. When we do the second round of training, sometime in the December, January timeframe, usually, I like to see that more as a check-in and how's your year going? And yes, you're going to have some new officers in that session, but most of them are going to be 6 months into their term. So I like to check in with people when I'm doing one of those training sessions. I like to check in, how's your year going so far? What questions have come up that you need help answering, that sort of thing. So that's how I approach that. But yes, you do need to attend both sessions to check that goal. Thank you for that question. And that's why I said there, minimum 4 officer trained during both periods. Now, do they have to be the same 4? Nope, just have to have 4. Ideally, you get all 7 both times. Okay, so I mentioned there are new recognition levels, or there is a new recognition level, and there is a new requirement. The first requirement is they have to submit their club success plan by September 30th, or it doesn't count. If they don't do that, they don't get to play in this club success plan or the distinguished club program. Get my tongue working here. Okay, so that's the first requirement for all of the levels of recognition. They've changed some things over here. Some of us old timers remember that if you had less than 20 members, you had to have a net growth of 5 up to 20. If you had 19 members, you only had to get 1. Now you're at 20, you're good. But if you had 13, you had to get 5 new members to get a total of 18 in order to be a distinguished club. Well, COVID clobbered so many clubs, they've reduced that down to a net growth of 3 to be a distinguished club. That's the minimum level. This year, they have changed that. That net growth of 3 applied to all 3 of these distinguished levels. This year, to be distinguished, you only need a net growth of 3 if you don't have 20. Select distinguished, back to that 5. And president's distinguished, sorry, got to have at least 20 or you don't play. All right. So those are changes this year. That's new information. This is the 4th recognition level that is new this year. You have to submit your club success plan and you have to have a minimum of 25 members. You also need to complete all 10 goals. Those of you who've been around this before, you know that you can be president's distinguished by completing only 9 goals. You complete 9 or 10 and you're president's. But you have to have 25 members and complete 10 goals, all 10 goals, in order to be Smedley distinguished. Okay? So those are the changes this year. Even if you're quite familiar with this, there were these changes. And then there are the caveats. If it's a newly chartered club, the due date for all of this stuff is 90 days afterwards. And this is a reminder about the transfer members not counting towards the membership goal. Okay? Any questions on that page before I move on? These are important key changes to the DCP this year. So we need to make sure everybody understands these. All right. So in summary on the DCP, this is what the total report on your dashboard will look like. The education goals, the membership goals, the training goals, and the admin goals. This is a screenshot I took just last night of my club, Babylon. We've got these goals met so far, or these things done. Now, this not only tells you what you've met and you get the check mark, it tells you what more you need. So we've got one of those and we need one more. All right. So on. That's that. Now, I'm going to move on to the club success plan. And we'll kind of refer back to some of those DCP things in the process, but talking about the club success plan, this is a screenshot from the online club success plan. When you first go in there for each club, and by the way, I know you folks are area directors, so you're not a club officer doing this, but your club officers may have questions. So that's why you need to understand how to do this. And if you have access to your club plan, and you have to be a club officer to do that. If you can get into Club Central and look at the club success plan, I highly recommend that you do that if you haven't already, because for one, your club has to submit it by September 30th, which is coming up fast. So make sure that your club gets it submitted. And the other reason for looking at it is just so you can explain it to your other clubs. All right, so the very first time you log in, it's going to ask you, do you want to do this online or do you want to do the PDF version? And you have to make that choice. And there's a box you have to check at the bottom that says that your club executive committee voted on this and decided which one you're going to do. So got to be sure to do that. And you check that box and you choose whether you're going to do online or PDF. I highly recommend going online if at all possible. You'll be able to choose from the drop-down menu. You can get to last year's plan if you did it online or this year's. Here's a quick reminder of the requirements. And then we get down to the actual plan. There are 2 tabs, the plan part and the action item list. Now, the action items are buried within each one of the sections of the plan, but this tab will take you to a complete list of the action items, and I'll show you this, right? So that's the top of the screen. And then as you scroll down on that screen, you'll see these 6 categories or sections. Now, education, membership, training, admin. Those sound strangely familiar, don't they? Weren't we just talking about those 4 categories in the types of goals in the Distinguished Club program? These are hardwired, they're connected. So those 4 sections are all about the Distinguished Club program goals. And then this is our roadmap, how we're going to get there. There are also these optional committee values and processes. I strongly recommend you complete those. They might be optional, but do it. And then this is a sheet that talks about who participated in this process. Committee values. This is something like, how are you going to resolve conflict? In my club, for example, we say that we will ideally reach a consensus on decisions. If we can't reach a consensus, majority vote. Okay, so we spell that out. We actually write that out. We talk about how often we're going to communicate with each other. Ideally, we'll do things by email, and we would expect people to answer within 24 hours to an email. If it's something urgent, text or phone call. But most of it isn't that urgent. We'll just send an email and hope, you know, the expectation is that you answer within 24 hours. Okay. So those are some of the kind of things you put under committee values and processes. And again, I highly recommend that you do that. So moving on, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the edit button for education, and I'm going to dive in and show you some of this. Okay, so the education section is all about the path, meeting the goals in the paths. I scrolled down just for privacy's sake. I didn't want to show you all my club members, but I scrolled down to myself. Now, what do these mean? The grayed out boxes mean I've already completed the dynamic leadership levels 1 and 2. And these boxes were checked saying, I intend to meet a level 3 and a level 4 this year. Guess what's going to happen when I submit level completion for level 3? That is automatically going to turn grayed out because this is linked to the Distinguished Club program. That's the beauty of doing it online. I don't have to go back in and be changing that. It does it automatically. Okay, so that's how that works. You'll see the grayed out things, and then you'll see the blue check marks. Now, how do we know what to put blue check marks by, or how do we know that?
I guess the system already knows that you've completed level 2 and level 3 is next. Is that right?
Right, but notice up above for motivational strategies, I've opened that path, but none of them are checked blue. Even though it should check the level 1. I mean, it knows that I have to complete level 1 first. The answer, the reason that these are checked is because our club vice president of education did a survey of club members at the beginning of the year and said, tell me what levels in which paths you intend to complete this year. Then she went in and checked the boxes. Okay, so this is a collaborative process. You need to involve your members to get this information, and they have ownership of the plan as well. This isn't just the club officers trying to make the club successful. This is the membership. Okay, so that's what the thing looks like. Now I'm going to back out a bit, and you can see here are the same things that I just showed you, but I've backed out to show you what the right side of that screen looks like. It has all 6 of the educational awards listed over here. We're just seeing the top 3 goals because that's all I got on my screenshot. Level 1, we have 5 members have said they're going to complete a level 1. We need 4 level 1s to meet the goal. We've committed to doing 5. We got a green check mark there. Does that mean we've completed it? When I first saw that green check mark, I thought, what the heck? Why is that checked green? We haven't done those yet. Well, you have to read. Imagine that. You have to read. This is the educational goals projected. These are the goals that we are projecting we're going to meet. So yes, we have that goal covered. Check. Level 2, we have 2 people have said they're going to meet level 2. So that one's covered. Level 2, 2 more. We have 2 more people. That one's covered. And if I scroll down, I didn't bother getting more screenshots, but you can see that ideally you want all 6 of your goals to have a green check mark by them, that you have somebody who has said they're going to cover that goal. Okay, so that's what that's about. And that kind of confused me at first when I saw those green check marks, but like I said, helps if you can read. Those are projected, not completed. And by the way, I don't think I show one here. Somebody has completed some of those things. Remember back here, when I was showing the DCP, we had somebody who's completed a level 2. So, and that was actually Andy, has completed a level 2. So it would show that that is completed. And when both of those are completed, instead of projected, that word will change to completed. And as I said before, you don't have to go back in and do this. They're linked. It does this automatically. Okay?
PJ, got a question
Yes.
on that one. I'm thinking my club is a little bit on the struggling side. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to put enough check boxes on levels. Is it going to kick back and say we got to try harder, or what's going to happen?
Nope. Nope. This is your tool to help you meet what goals you feel like you can meet. And don't make things up. I mean, if it's unrealistic, don't say 10 people are going to submit these goals. That's ridiculous. Say what you expect to happen. And as you get new members throughout the year, maybe you're going to get somebody who's going to complete a level 1. This is a dynamic tool. It will change throughout the year. And it should reflect reality, though. And again, back to my earlier comments, why 2 level 2s and 2 more level 2s? For that very reason. You're a struggling club, you can only get 2, so you're not going to make that goal. But guess what? You make that goal, maybe you make that goal, so there's 2. You pay your dues on time, there's 3. You submit your club officer list on time, there's 4. And you get 4 new members. There's your 5 goals. You are now a distinguished club, the minimum level of distinguished. Okay, so that's why they split it up. And to answer your question, this should reflect reality. Don't. I mean, you can make it a stretch goal, but don't don't live in a fantasy world is what I'm trying to say. Okay, should be realistic. Does that answer your question then?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, so now I have clicked the edit button for the training section. The training section asks which officers will attend training. And so we checked all 7 will attend the June to August thing, and we have already done that. And then who's going to attend the November through February? We've checked all 7 because all 7 of us will get trained. And again, this doesn't say we have completed this. This is the projected numbers. And I looked at this to see if they grade these out. They do not grade them out. I was kind of expecting they might do that after we completed that, but they didn't. So little inconsistency there in how this thing works, but you get the idea. Again, this is projected. We set a 7 of 4. Now, this is our plan. Remember that we're going to do this, and this is more like a goal, right? Saying that these 7 people are going to attend training. Well, what's the plan? How do we do this? Well, if you scroll down, strategies and tactics, this is how we're going to do that. So the question, what are some ways to motivate officers to attend an officer training session? And I said all officers are expected to attend TLI or a makeup training session for both rounds of training. This is part of our club culture. And Donna Stark challenged me when I presented this last time. She says, well, I don't remember if she used the word arrogant, but that was the intent of her comment, that I was being a bit arrogant, and not all clubs are as successful as Babylon, my home club. Some clubs are struggling. So yes, I am a bit arrogant, but this is our club culture. And if your club culture is that people don't intend to go to officer training, well, why the heck are they signing up to be an officer? That's part of the job. I mean, sorry, Donna, but that's how I feel about it. And if you want to make a comment, go ahead. Got to unmute though.
I was in the middle of typing it. PJ, I would never call you arrogant. You are confident, you are self-assured, and you are very passionate about your topic. And that, my friend, is a feature.
Yes, good. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, you didn't use the word arrogant, but you said, hey, wait a minute. Some clubs are struggling. They're not all like this. So,
PJ.
Yes, go ahead.
Finish your sentence. I'm sorry. Go ahead. And then I have a question.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that when your club nominating committee is screening candidates for club officer positions, this is something to discuss with them. You're committing to be a club officer for 6 months or for a year. Part of that commitment is you will attend training. So, sort that out in advance rather than trying to beat people up later on to get them to go to training. And then let me mention that second line there, Gabrielle, then I'll take your question. It says, what are some ways you can motivate people to attend training? I encourage our club officers to sign up to be presenters for club officer training and to help with registration or help with promotion. But I try to get them involved with the club officer training program so that they understand what goes on behind the scenes for that. Okay, so that's an actual clip from our club success plan. Now, Gabrielle, go ahead.
First of all, I have a code word for those doing the recording. The code word is culture, C-U-L-T-U-R-E. Culture is the second code word of the second half. The question came up, where are the recordings for recent officer trainings? Do you want to answer that or you want me to answer that?
I will be happy to answer that. There are no recordings of club officer training because that is not permitted by TI. To get credit for being trained, you must attend a live training session, either in person or on Zoom, whichever, but it has to be a live interactive session where you can ask questions and get feedback and participate. And if you want to add anything to that, go for it.
No, huh? Thank you. There was one other question. These goals, what is the end date for the program year?
June 30th. So if you have semi-annual officers, for example, your first group of officers will be leading the club from July 1st through December 31st. Then the next round of officers will be in charge from January 1st through June 30th. But the DCP program runs that entire 12 months.
All right,
Okay.
and then I have one other comment that I'm going to stick in here, and this is for all of the area directors. One of the directors says her officers had a terrible time with scheduling. I felt that we had several opportunities to do TLI or makeup training. So I'm going to ask you, and I'll put my email in the chat. What was the problem with scheduling? Because in past years, there's been 1 or 2 makeup trainings, and this year we must have had at least a half dozen for each officer role. So I'm going to ask that you give me feedback about the scheduling issue, and I will see what I can do to make that easier come winter training. It is too late for officer training. They needed to be done by September 1st, so we've already passed the deadline for the first round. But I'll see what I can do to make things more flexible and easier for the winter training session.
Yep. We had a bunch of makeup sessions and Saturdays, weeknights. We had so many sessions offered that people should have been able to make it to at least one of them. And you only need to get 4 of your officers trained to meet that goal. I highly recommend all 7, but if you can only get 4 trained, well, try to get to one of those makeup sessions. If you can't make it to the TLI is always the first choice. That's the best because it's a larger group of people, more questions, more interaction, better information usually. If you can't make that though, then go to the makeup session. Okay. All right, enough about training there. Admin. The 2 things for the admin goal, remember, pay your dues on time. I'm the treasurer, and so I'm the person responsible for submitting our dues on time. And as I told you before, I already did that for this round. Our club secretary is Andy. He is responsible for submitting the officer list. And then they say, what current obstacles does your club have in achieving its admin goals? Huh? What obstacles? I said none. These are routine tasks that will be completed by experienced members. we both know how to do this job, and we will make sure they get done. So again, this is a bit of that arrogance I mentioned earlier. It's like, what are you talking about? What's the problem? Don't say no problem here. Move on. So I'm sorry to make light of this, but that's just my attitude, and I can't really apologize for that because that's just how I feel about it. All right, so that's the admin section. Now, what I want to do is scrolling down within the admin section. We're still in that admin section. I hit the edit button and boom, it opens up. So I scroll down and now I have this list of action items, and there's what you can't see here, either below or above, I forget exactly where. There's a plus button where you add another action item. So you can add action items specific to each of these sections, the education section, the admin section, the training section, and so on. So what we have here is this was submit the club success plan. And this says active. That's actually already been done. So that was, so that should, oh, I didn't update this screenshot. When I made this screenshot, that hadn't happened yet. But that has since happened because our deadline was July 31st. We said, we're not waiting until September 30th to submit our success plan. We're going to submit that by July 31st, and we did. And then pay April 1 dues. That's my job, and do it by March 31st, and submit new officer list. That's Andy's job to submit the new officer list. Now, where do you suppose I got that May 4th date? Why did I say May 4th? Well, if you look in the club leadership handbook, it says you are supposed to elect officers your first meeting in May. My club meets on Sunday, May 3rd. We will elect our new officers May 3rd. By 24 hours later, Andy will have submitted our new list of elected officers in Club Central, May 4th. So that's where that date came from. Right here, elect officers at that May 3rd meeting. David Friedman is our immediate past president. He is the de facto chair of the nominating committee, so he owns that goal or that action item. And obviously he needs to be working prior to that. He needs to form a nominating committee, and he needs to recruit candidates and all that sort of thing, and submit a slate to the club for this election on May 3rd. But we could add more action items if we wanted, say appoint the nominating committee by such and such a date, boom, boom, boom. You can get as much detail in here as you want, but we try not to make it too crazy, because then people will ignore it, bogged down in the details. Okay, so that's the admin section. Now I'm going to move to the other tab. See, that was in the plan section. Now I'm moving to the action item list. This pulls all action items out of the different goal areas. For example, the conduct moments of truth is actually in the membership action or membership goal, because that is a way to recruit and retain members by working the moments of truth to see what you're doing well and how you can improve. The whole purpose of doing moments of truth is to recruit and retain new members. So we put that under the membership goal, and that says April 15th. We've already done that, so I'm not sure why it says that right there. Right? Molly put that in, our club president. This one, submit the club success plan. See, it shows that as completed. Pay April 1 dues by March 31st. And there's a pay October 1st dues somewhere off screen here, from my screenshot. And that one already shows completed. Now this thing drives me bonkers. This says we have something overdue. We do not have a goal overdue. But it thinks we do, and I can't figure out why. And even when that was 0 before it said we had one overdue, that was still red, which drives me nuts. And I've given feedback to TI and said, why can't that be not red unless there's an issue? Because red just glares at me, and that just annoys the heck out of me. But anyway, it's red even when it's 0. And now it's 1, which annoys me even more because there isn't one that's overdue. I don't understand. But anyway, there are some bugs. Keep in mind, there are some bugs in the program, but overall, the online version of the Club Success Plan is very nice. It's hooked to the Distinguished Club program, so you don't have to be typing everything in. And, you know, we didn't have to type these names in. There's a drop-down menu. It knows who all of our club members are. So boom, you just pull them from the drop-down menu, right? Very effective, right? That's that. We've talked about the Distinguished Club program, which is the list of goals we get from TI. And then the Club Success Plan is how we intend to meet those 10 goals. And that is the wrap of my session. And we have about 15 more minutes for general discussion or comments, questions, whatever.
So the big thing I've learned is Club Success Plan is required to qualify for any of the distinguished club levels. And I feel very, very behind because I only really, when signing up for this session, realized I have been given an area directorship, and I know my group. And by the way, PJ, I'm coming for your club real soon now.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. You're my area director, aren't you?
Yeah,
So
I
that-
am.
Right.
I am.
Right. Yeah, because we wound up in the Northern Division this year.
Yeah.
With our crazy realignment. Yes. Okay. So that Club Success Plan, as long as we have time, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just show you.
I've got a comment question. Oh, I've got an answer to a question that's in the comments.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the clubs, at least one of the clubs for one of the directors, they are corporate clubs, so they prefer training at noon. And their people didn't know that they could get trained anywhere. You can go to any district and do their online training and get credit, and that email gets sent back to me that they've done training at some other district, and you get credit. So that your area director didn't give you a heads up about that, I apologize. We're gonna be very diligent about that this year. Prefer that you take training with District 7, but honest to God, District 7 trained over 61 people in District 21 this past go round. And we've heard from one or two other districts that they've trained more than a dozen of our people. So what goes around comes around. We all talk to each other. I'm actually on a chat with my other PQDs, which is Program Quality Director, and we take care of each other and make sure if you get trained in another district, just make sure that they have the information they need to get the email back to me to give you credit. So it does not matter where you get the officer training. It does need to be live, but it can be live in any district.
Yep. Good. And
Hey, PJ, I've got a couple
yes,
comments.
go ahead, Marvin.
I've been very critical and frustrated by IT's response in Toastmasters. I think I come from an operations background. You don't shut down something for a week because you're changing version. But I really am encouraged to see go through what you've gone through today. Maybe they're finally waking up. I'm excited now, which is something I've never been when I encountered TI's IT stuff. So thank you. It's made my day.
Okay, I will confess, I actually sent an email to the board of directors email address at TI and asked if we actually hired professional IT people or if it was just somebody's hobby. And they thanked me for my comments and didn't answer.
Yeah.
I mean, it just irritates the hell out of me if any the companies I worked for, if they had the IT debacles like Toastmasters has had, people would have been fired. I mean, it's inexcusable. An organization the size of Toastmasters International should have good IT people. And if we don't, then they need to they need to increase the budget and hire some. I mean, we're online. I mean, you gotta have support. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Marvin. I appreciate your comments, and believe me, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hot
Well,
button for
I
me.
worked 20 years for United Airlines. We changed systems all the time, but you didn't shut it down for a week because you're making an upgrade.
Yes. Well, remember when the country store shut down for almost a year?
Yeah.
Yeah, or not the
Hmm.
country store, the TI store, and you couldn't order trophies, you couldn't order ribbons, you couldn't order pads, you couldn't order anything because the they totally blew that. And people should have been fired over that. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
opinion. But anyway, enough on that. What I wanted to show you real quick is just show you we have a job, folks. We got to get out there and tell those clubs, get their club success plans in. And I'm just going to share here real quick. Let's see, where is it? This guy. Okay, if you don't know where I am right now, we have a bigger problem too. If you don't know how to get to the dashboard, yeah, talk to me, because you got to get to the dashboard. Now go to daily reports and got to select our district 7, and then club success plan submission. This is the new daily report. You see this? Everybody
Yeah.
see this? Club success plan submission report. And so if we go in here and we look at this, see all of these not submitteds? Not submitteds, not submitteds. I mean, they are so many not submitteds. And you can sort just for your convenience. Okay, so we can sort here and we can see, check your area and you can see who has submitted the report and who hasn't. Well, it's mostly who hasn't. So if you didn't know about this, go in here and take a look and then contact your clubs and say, hey guys, September 30th is coming up fast. Got to get that club success plan in. And I've had people ask the question, this is kind of going back to what Gabrielle asked before. Well, what if we're struggling and what if we can't fill out all of that information? Well, you fill out what you can and you submit it. And then you go back in as you get more information, you go back in and you update it. It's a living document. So just encourage them to put basic information in there and hit the submit button. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to have any hope of making a distinguished club this year. Okay?
So
So-
PJ, that begs
Yes.
the question, if the officers are having a little trouble getting that thing filled out, just get it halfway filled out, hit the submit, and then they can update it in October and November, but get the submit button hit by the 30th and you're
Yes.
golden.
Yes,
What is the
absolutely.
minimum required to be able to hit submit?
I haven't tested that. And back to the comment that Richard made in the last session about who reads the club visit reports, that we have to submit those to TI, and some person's locked in a closet or a room with no windows and has to read every single one of those club visit reports. No, TI is not going to read all of these club success plans, but we encourage the clubs to submit one, and it's kind of an honor system, if you will. I think, as far as I understand, that they've worked on a plan, and then of course you as area directors ask to go over their club success plan with your club officers when you meet them. You're kind of the support system for them or the resource for them on this plan. But anyway, I encourage you to take a look at this. Contact all of your clubs that have not submitted, which is most of them, by the way, and tell them to get their act together. And see, here we are, Babylon. We submitted ours on July 20th. Yay!
Okay.
Okay.
And just a reminder for all of you, I am doing this training, not the whole thing, but I am doing the Club Success Plan training Monday night. And I put out the constant contact email to all presidents and all vice presidents of membership. But I put in that any officer is welcome to attend that training on Monday night.
Yeah, well, the first 6 of the 10 goals are education. VPE would be a good person to have at that as well.
Sure.
By the way, one question that I frequently hear from newer people is, why does TI insist we have 20 members?
Yeah.
So how do you answer that question?
Well, I know from being in a couple of struggling clubs, in my experience, it takes about 20 members to have a viable club because invariably 2 or 3 people do not show up. And to have an in-person meeting, you need at least 12 members. Otherwise, it's a struggle. Now, I have a little bit of a caveat to that. My virtual club has regularly 10 members show up and we do a great meeting. So, but an in-person club somehow needs a couple more people than a virtual club. I don't know why, but it's been that way since COVID with my club. But 20 members just because people have stuff to do, and if you have 20 members, you're going to have about 15 that show up each week, and it's a
Yeah.
different 15 each week maybe, but it takes at least that to run a meeting.
Yeah, Donna.
I'll add it also helps prevent burnout. When you're a member of a small club and you're having to speak week after week after week, it gets tiring.
Or you have multiple roles. I was once at a meeting, I was once the Toastmaster, the General Evaluator, and the Grammarian. 3 roles in one meeting. Or you're giving a speech, and then you have to stand up and evaluate another speaker. I've never evaluated myself. It's not been that bad, but I've had to give a speech and then evaluate another speaker. And I don't want to have to do that. I want to focus on my speech and on the feedback I get from my evaluation, rather than have to worry about evaluating somebody else. But yeah, it's burnout is a big problem. And my club has 20 members. We get anywhere from 10 to 15 members at each meeting because people are sick, they're traveling for their job, their kid's sick, whatever. So yeah. All right. All good reasons my club struggled for several years after COVID, and we are just now recovering. Yeah, some clubs really, we lost clubs. We lost a lot of clubs when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And some are not back yet. Anyway, rambling on here, and we've got about 5-6 minutes left. So I've pretty well told you everything I wanted to tell you, but if anybody has any more questions or comments,
I want to stick one more code word in. The code word is bugs, B-U-G-S, bugs, B-U-G-S.
bugs, huh? Okay, Colleen says they're doing Speechcraft. Yeah, hopefully that'll get new members. Good. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that 2 or 3 roles in a club meeting. That does suck. Yes, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your participation and attendance, and consider yourself trained, and
I have one more
Yep.
thing. I need to stick the survey in the chat. Excuse me, if you would grab that and get it back to me. Copy the link, where's my chat button? And I would love for you to fill this out. You all get credit anyway, but I also want to see if my survey is working, and I need to modify it before I put the recording up. So I appreciate that you get back to me with that survey. So everyone who's here is going to get credit. That's not an issue. But thank you both, Richard and PJ, for doing a great job. And
Gabrielle, you mentioned you're doing a training tomorrow night.
Monday. Yeah,
It feels like Sunday to me. Thank you.
sorry.
Um,
You have one more day of
What day
weekend.
is it? Oh my gosh. Is there a possibility that this training that PJ has done can be made available as a recording so that when we're reaching out to our clubs and they're asking questions, we can say, hey, here's a good resource, go watch that. Not for training necessarily, but some great information has been given today.
So we recorded this session for the area directors. I will try and record my session Monday night. I'm going to tweak this a bit for clubs. And so I will try and do a recording on that because it is an optional training. And so I would love for people to not have the excuse they don't know what they're doing. And so I'm going to record my set. I will try and remember to record my session Monday night.
and I just
Send that out.
I just put a PDF of my slide deck in chat if any of you want it. I don't know how helpful it would be, but maybe it'll remind you, trigger what I said at the time. But
Those screenshots are great.
yeah.
And that's, I know, Donna, you've been here before. Why are you here? I am generating a list as a division directors of things that I want to share with my area directors, things that I think will be helpful, things that I'm way behind the 8 ball on. So thank you. It is beneficial information, whether or not I'm, an area director or club officer.
Yeah.
Can never hear it too many times. And PJ, you do it well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.